South African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. A war crimes complaint against Sudan's paramilitary group Rapid Support Forces has been filed in Kenya. This is the first time in Kenya's history that a complaint for war crimes and crimes against humanity is being filed under the principle of universal jurisdiction, allowing Kenyan authorities to prosecute crimes committed in another country. The victims are asking the Kenyan Director of Public Prosecutions to investigate 10 members of the RSF, including some with alleged ties to Kenya, for committing these international crimes in and around Khartoum between April 2023 and March 2025. And to hear more about this, joining us on the line is Antonia Mulvey, the Executive Director at Legal Action Worldwide. Antonia, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation.
Antonia, just unpack the laws governing the filing of the complaint by Sudanese in Kenyan courts using the universal jurisdiction and why the complaint was not filed in Sudan.
Thank you. Well, firstly, Kenya has the legal framework which allows for investigation and prosecution of international crimes that have taken place outside of its borders. And in this case, the crimes took place in Sudan. And that comes under the 2008 International Crimes Act. Furthermore, as you have stated, we have listed 10 persons of interest who have reported links to Kenya moving freely in and out of the country. But also, as Sudan is in a war situation, the justice system there is ineffective and unavailable for any Sudanese victims who have suffered from these brutal crimes. And finally, worth noting, the International Criminal Court does have an ongoing investigation, but only in relation to crimes that are taking place in Darfur. It does not and cannot investigate crimes beyond Darfur in the rest of Sudan. And this is why, importantly, we have filed this case in Kenya.
And how significant is this filing as the first known attempt to hold members of the RSF legally accountable in a domestic court outside Sudan?
This is a landmark criminal complaint. It's the first time that a criminal complaint has been filed within Kenya, where we have requested that war crimes and crimes against humanity are investigated for crimes that have taken place outside the borders of Kenya. Yesterday, when I met with the Director of Public Prosecutions and we submitted our criminal complaint, it was stamped. And this is the first time that state authorities have acknowledged a complaint of this kind. It's very important for victims and survivors, of which there are millions of Sudanese victims from this war, to have this acknowledgement at this time, and at a moment when there are very few limited avenues for justice and accountability. But also, Kenya has an opportunity to lead in the fight against impunity. It has the legal framework, and it has a strong and independent investigative and judicial authorities that we hope and believe will request an investigation. And it can never be more important at this time, where we see international law being breached on a daily basis, that all those who can stand up and make a stance against crimes that are taking place do so.
And Antonia, what specific evidence connects the 10 listed RSF commanders and members, some of whom are alleged to having ties in Kenya or residing in Kenya, just to the crimes committed in the Sudanese capital?
We, with our partners, have submitted 196 pages of meticulous evidence, which is the result of 2 years of investigation and includes witness statements. Now, it is a confidential criminal complaint. As you can understand, these matters are extremely sensitive, so we can't share the contents of that complaint. However, as we've seen on Kenyan media, which has sparked outrage, that members of the Rapid Support Forces are moving freely in and out of Kenya, and there has also been reportedly ties to citizenship and financial ties here within Kenya. And the public themselves have said Kenya should not be a safe haven for war criminals.
And what structural protections are being implemented to safeguard the 12 families, or rather the 12 victims and their families, from retaliation by the paramilitary elements?
12 very brave men and women have filed this complaint. Now, these individuals were detained in prisons and detention facilities in and around Khartoum. They were subjected to horrific crimes, which include torture, sexual violence, including sexual slavery. They were raped and they witnessed the members of their families being killed. Now, it's really difficult to have the bravery and the courage to step up and file these complaints, which is why we have protected their identity within the complaint and from the public, and will continue to protect them for their identity due to real security reasons. It's also the reasons why there were no complainants present with us yesterday in Nairobi when we filed this complaint with the Director of Public Prosecution.
And what is the next step? What happens now after this complaint has been filed?
The Director of Public Prosecutions now will review the complaint. As I mentioned, it's a lengthy complaint, very substantiated with evidence, and we want them to take the time to examine it and review the evidence carefully. Under Kenyan law, they do have 30 days to review, and we hope the Director of Public Prosecutions will order an investigation into the international crimes that have taken place.
And just what would happen, if the complainants win this case, and how would the case be trialed?
When you have an international criminal case taking place, these are complex and lengthy. But what would happen next would be that there would be an investigation into the war crimes and crimes against humanity. A trial, we hope, will take place, which also would result in the arrest, warrants being issued for rapid support forces. It should be noted that in Kenya, trials can take place in absentia. That means that those suspects or those who committed crimes don't need to be present. And we do hope that individuals will be convicted of horrific crimes that have taken place against so many Sudanese victims and survivors. 12 have bravely stepped forward, but there are millions more who continue to suffer, civilians, women and children, and it will send a message very clearly that Kenya will not be a safe haven for these criminals.
Just for interest's sake, has there been any reaction from, Sudan's government, or just the RSF leadership itself? Has there been any reaction?
We are not aware of any reaction by the Sudanese government or the Rapid Support Forces. We do hope there will be a reaction, particularly from the government, and we hope that the Rapid Support Forces will acknowledge what is happening, but most importantly, to stop the crimes that are being undertaken in this brutal war in Sudan and bring it to an end.
Antonia, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to leave it there for today.
Thank you very much.
That's Antonia Mulvey, the Executive Director at Legal Action Worldwide, joining us on the line.
Africa Matters Minute.